April 2nd. Oof. April 2nd, and we are reading Matthew 25:31-46. Matthew 25:31-46. The final judgment. But when the Son of Man comes in his glory and all his angels with him, then he will sit upon his glorious throne. All the nations will be gathered in his presence, and he will separate them as a shepherd separates sheep from the goats. He will place the sheep at his right hand and the goats at his left. Then the king will say to those on the right, "Come, you who are blessed by my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungry, and you fed me. I was thirsty, and you gave me a drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me into your home. I was naked, and you gave me clothing. I was sick, and you cared for me. I was in prison, and you visited me." Then these righteous ones will reply, "Lord, when did we ever see you hungry, or feed you, or thirsty, and give you something to drink? Or a stranger and show you hospitality, or naked and give you clothing? When did we ever see you sick, or in prison, and visit you?" And the king will tell them, "I assure you, when you did it to one of the least of these, my brothers and sisters, you were doing it to me." Then the king will return to those on the left and say, "Away with you, cursed ones, into eternal fire prepared for the devil and his demons. For I was hungry, and you didn't feed me, and I was thirsty, and you didn't give me anything to drink. I was a stranger, and you didn't invite me into your home. I was naked, and you gave me no clothing. I was sick and in prison, and you didn't visit me." Then they will reply, "Lord, when did we ever see you hungry or thirsty, or a stranger, or naked, or sick, or in prison, and did not help you?" And he will answer, "I assure you, when you refuse to help the least of these, my brothers and sisters, you were refusing to help me." And they will go away into eternal punishment, but the righteous will go into eternal life. Matthew 25, chapter 25, verse 31-46. That was kind of deep right there. Numbers 32-34. The tribes east of the Jordan. Now the tribes of Reuben and Gad owned vast numbers of livestock, so when they saw the lands of Jazer and Gilead, they were ideally situated for their flocks and herds. Then Moses, Eleazar, the son of Eleazar the priest, and other leaders of the people, they said, "Ataroth, Dibon, Jazer, Nimrah, Heshbon, Eliah, Sebam, Nebo, and beyond. The Lord has conquered this whole area for the people of Israel. It is ideally suited for all of our flocks and herds. If we have found favor with you, please let us have this land as our property instead of giving us land across the Jordan River. Do you mean you want to stay back while your brothers go across and do all the fighting?" Moses asked the Reubenites and the Gadites, "Are you trying to discourage the rest of the people of Israel from going across the land the Lord has given them? This is what your ancestors did before I sent them to Kadesh Barnea to explore the land. After they went up to the valley of Eshcol and scouted the land, they discouraged the people of Israel from entering the land the Lord was giving them. Then the Lord was furious with them. And vowed, 'All of those I rescued from Egypt, no one who is 20 years or older will ever see the land that I solemnly promised Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, for they have not obeyed me completely. The only exceptions are Caleb, son of Jephunneh, and the Kizanite, and Joshua, son of Nun, for they have wholeheartedly followed the Lord. The Lord was furious with Israel and made them wander in the wilderness for 40 years until the whole generation that sinned against them had died. But here you are, a brood of sinners doing exactly the same thing. You're making the Lord even angrier with Israel. If you turn away from him like this and he abandoned them again in the wilderness, you will be responsible for destroying this entire nation. But they responded to Moses, we simply want to build sheepfolds for our flocks and fortified cities for our wives and children. Then we will arm ourselves and lead our fellow Israelites into battle until we have brought them out safely into their inheritance. Meanwhile, families will stay in the fortified cities we build here, so they will be safe from any attacks by local people. We will not return to our homes until all the people of Israel have received their inheritance of land. But we do not want any of the land on the other side of the Jordan. We would rather live here on the east side, where we have received our inheritance land. Then Moses said, if you keep your word and arm yourself for the Lord's battles, and if your troops cross the Jordan until the Lord has driven out his enemies, then you may return when the land is finally subdued before the Lord. You will have discharged your duty to the Lord and the rest of the people of Israel. And the land on the east side of the Jordan will be your inheritance from the Lord. But if you fail to keep your word, then you have sinned against the Lord. And you may be sure that your sins will find you out. Go ahead and build towns for your families and sheepfolds for your flocks, but do everything you have said. Then the people of Gad and Reuben replied, we are your servants, and we will follow your instructions exactly. Our children, wives, flocks, and cattle will stay here in the town of Gilead. But, sir, all who are able to bear arms will cross over to fight for the Lord, just as you have said. So Moses gave the orders to Eleazar, Joshua, and the tribal leaders of Israel. He said, if all the men of Gad and Reuben who are able to fight the Lord's battles cross the Jordan with you, then when the land is conquered, you must give them the land of Gilead as their property. But if they refuse to cross over and march ahead of you, then you must accept with the rest of you. Then you must accept land with the rest of you in the land of Canaan. The tribes of Gad and Reuben said again, sir, we will do as the Lord has commanded. We will cross the Jordan to Canaan fully armed to fight for the Lord. But our inheritance of land will be here on this side of the Jordan. So Moses assigned the tribes of Gad, Reuben, and half the tribe of Manasseh, son of Joseph, the territory of King Sihon of the Amorites, the land of Og, king of Bashan, the whole land with its towns and surrounding lands. The people of Gad built the town of Dibon, Atharoth, Area, Atharoth-Shaben, Jazer, Jogbeha, Beth Nimrah, and Beth Horon. These were fortified cities with sheepfolds for their flocks. The people of Reuben built the towns of Heshbon, Eliah, Kithrampin, Nebo, Balimon, and Sibmah. They changed the names of some towns they conquered and rebuilt. Then the descendants of Machir of the tribe of Manasseh went to Gilead and conquered it, and they drove out the Amorites who were living there. So Moses gave Gilead to the Machirites, descendants of Manasseh, and they lived there. The people of Jair, another clan of the tribe of Manasseh, captured many towns in Gilead, and they changed the name of what that region to the town of Jair. Meanwhile, a man named Nobai captured the town of Kenath and its surrounding villages, and he renamed that area Nobai after himself. Remembering Israel's journey. This is the itinerary of the Israelites followed as they marched out to Egypt under the leadership of Moses and Aaron at the Lord's directions. Moses kept a written record of their progress. There are stages of their march identified by different places they stopped along the way. They set out from the city of Ramses on the morning after Passover celebration in the early spring. The people of Israel left defiantly in full view of all the Egyptians. Meanwhile, the Egyptians were burying all their firstborn sons whom the Lord had killed the night before. The Lord had defeated the gods of Egypt that night with great acts of judgment. After leaving Ramses, the Israelites set up camp at Succoth. Then they left Succoth and camped next to Etham on the edge of the wilderness. Then they left Etham and turned back toward Pith-Hathroth, opposite of Baal-Zephon, near the camp of Migdol. They left Pith-Hathroth and crossed the Red Sea into the wilderness beyond. Then they traveled for 3 days into the Athron wilderness and camped at Marah. They left Marah and camped at Elim. When there were 12 springs of water and 70 palm trees, they left Elim and camped beside the Red Sea. They left the Red Sea and camped in the Sin Desert. They left the Sin Desert and camped at Dokapoth. They left Dokapoth and camped at Alush. They left Alush and camped at Rephaim. Where there was no water for the people to drink, they left Rephaim and camped in the wilderness of Sinai. They left the wilderness of Sinai and camped at Kibroth-Lahavta. They left Kibroth-Lahavta and camped at Hazeroth. They left Hazeroth and camped at Rithmah. They left Rithmah and camped at Rimmon Perez. They left Rimmon Perez and camped at Libnah. They left Libnah and camped at Rishah. They left Rishah and camped at Keleh-Kalath. They left Keleh-Kalath and camped at Mount Sephir. They left Mount Sephir and camped at Heradah. They left Heradah and camped at Mekaloth. They left Mekaloth and camped at Tahath. They left Tahath and camped at Terah. They left Terah and camped at Mithla. They left Mithla and camped at Hashemona. They left Hashemona and camped at Mazeroth. They left Mazeroth and camped at Beni-Jaakan. They left Beni-Jaakan and camped at Hor-Haggidgad. They left Hor-Haggidgad and camped at Jotabath. They left Jotabath and camped at Abranon. They left Abranon and camped at Elazon-Gibber. They left Elazon-Gibber and camped at Kadesh in the wilderness of Zin. They left to Kadesh and camped at the Mount of Hor, at the border of Edom. While they were at the foot of the mountain Hor, Aaron the priest was directed by the Lord to go up to the mountain, and there he died. This happened on the day in midsummer during the 40th year of Israel's departure from Egypt. Aaron was 123 years old when he died on the mountain of Hor. It was then the Canaanite king of Ar, who lived in Negev in the land of Canaan, heard that the people of Israel were portioning his land. Meanwhile, the Israelites left the mountain of Hor and camped at Zalmonah. Then they left Zalmonah and camped at Punon. They left Punon and camped at Oboth. They left Oboth and camped at Abarim on the border of Moab. They left Abarim and camped at Dibon-Gad. They left Dibon-Gad and camped at Alman-Diblataim. They left Alman-Diblataim and camped at the mountain east of the river near Mount Nebo. They left the mountains on the east river and camped in the plains of Moab beside the Jordan River across from Jericho. Along the Jordan River, they camped from Beth-Shiramoth as far as Abel-Shittim on the plains of Moab. While they were camping near the Jordan River on the plains of Moab, opposite Jericho, the Lord said to Moses, "Speak to the Israelites, tell them, when you cross the Jordan River into the land of Canaan, you must drive out all the people living there. You must destroy their carved, molten images and demolish all their pagan shrines. Take possession of the land and settle in it, because I have given it to you to occupy. You must distribute the land among the clans by the sacred lot in proportion to their size. A larger inheritance of land will be allotted to each of the larger clans, and a smaller inheritance will be allotted to each of the smaller clans. The decision to the sacred lot is final. In this way, the land will be divided among your ancestral tribes. But if you fail to drive out the people who live in the land, those who remain will be like splinters in your eye and a thorn in your side. They will harass you in the land where you live, and I will do to you what I have planned to do to them." boundaries of the land. Then the Lord said to Moses, give these instructions to the Israelites when you come into the land of Canaan, which I am giving you as your special possession. These will be the boundaries. The southern portion of your country will be extended from the wilderness of Zin along the edge of Edom, and the southern boundary will begin on the east of the Dead Sea. It will then run south past Scorpion's Pass in the direction of Zin. Its southernmost point will be the Kadesh Barnea, from which it will go to the Hazar Aldon, to the Arzman. From Arzman, the boundary will turn toward the brook of Egypt and end at the Mediterranean Sea. Your western boundary will be the coastline of the Mediterranean Sea. Your northern boundary will begin at the Mediterranean Sea and run eastward towards Mount Hor, then Lebo Hamath, and through Zedad and Zephron to Hazar Enon. This will be your northern boundary. The eastern boundary will start at the Hazron Enon and run south to Shephelah, then down to the Riblah on the east side of Ain. From there, the boundary will run along the eastern edge of the Sea of Galilee, along the Jordan River to the Dead Sea. These are the boundaries of your land. Then Moses told the Israelites, this is the territory you are to divide among yourselves by sacred lot. The Lord commands that the land be divided among the 9.5 remaining tribes. The families of the tribe of Gad, Reuben, Gad, and the half a tribe of Manasseh have already received their inheritance on the east side of the Jordan River, across from Jericho. Leaders to divide the land. And the Lord said to Moses, these are the men who are to divide the land among the people. Eleazar the priest and Joshua son of Nun also enlist one leader from each of the tribes to help them with the task. These are the tribes and the names of the leaders. Tribe Judah, Caleb son of Jephunneh. Simeon, Shemuel son of Amminadab. Benjamin, Eliad son of Kishon. Dan, Buki son of Jogled. Manasseh son of Joseph. Haniah son of Ephod. Ephraim son of Joseph. Chemiel son of Sephadah. Zebulun, Eliphaz son of Pachnak. Issachar, Patelia son of Azan. Asher, Ahidud son of Shilimon. Naphtali, Padalia son of Amminadab. These are the men the Lord has appointed to oversee the dividing of the land of Canaan among the Israelites. Book of Job. Job 2. Job's second test. On a day, the angels came again to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan, the accuser, came with them. Where have you come from? The Lord asked Satan. And Satan answered the Lord, I've been going back and forth across the earth, watching everything that's going on. Then the Lord said to Satan, have you noticed my servant Job? He is the finest man in all the earth, a man of complete integrity. He fears God and has nothing to do with evil, and he has maintained his integrity, even though you persuaded me to harm him without cause. Satan replied to the Lord, skin for skin. He blesses you only because you bless him. A man will give up everything he has to save his life. But take away his health, and he will surely curse you to your face. All right, do with him as you please, the Lord said to Satan, but spare his life. So Satan left the Lord's presence, and he struck Job with a terrible case of boils from head to foot. Then Job scraped his skin with a piece of broken pottery as he sat among the ashen. His wife said to him, are you still trying to maintain your integrity? curse God and die. But Job replied, "You talk like a godless woman. Should we accept only good things from the hand of God and never anything bad?" So in all this, Job said nothing wrong. Job's 3 friends share his anguish. 3 of Job's friends were Eliphaz the Temanite, Bildad the Shunammite, and Zophar the Naamathite. When they heard of the tragedy he had suffered, they got together and traveled from their homes to comfort and console him. When they saw Job from the distance, they scarcely recognized him, wailing loudly. They tore their robes and threw dust over their heads to demonstrate their grief. They sat on the ground with him for 7 days and nights, and no one said a word, for they saw that his suffering was too great. Amen. Stay blessed.